Hi, welcome. I'm Dr. Jody Richardson Delgado. Welcome to Online EdVantage. Please subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about stress. Now, one form of stress is chronic stress, and this is long-term emotional pressure from a situation that feels that we have little control over. These things include poverty, poor working conditions, bad relationships, and health issues. So you can imagine these things really last a long time for us and cause a lot of stress in our lives. Many people deal with more than one of these things at a time. There's also acculturative stress. This is stress associated with adjusting to a new way of life. So people who come into a new culture really have to learn about assimilating into that culture. They also have to deal with the separation from maybe their family or maybe their friends, and also separating from the cultural norms that they had previously. And then also integrating into a new culture, into a new society is very stressful for people. Now, we think of this often when people come to a different country, but this can also be when we join a new culture, maybe in a different part of the country or in a different part of the state. We see this when we are trying to adapt to new culture situations. Hassles and uplifts are also part of our stress as well. Now, hassles are problems or irritants that we deal with on a regular basis. We don't often think of this as major stress in our lives, but this can really add up. If you've ever heard the term, the straw that broke the camel's back, this is really what they're talking about, all these hassles that kind of build up. So things like constantly losing your keys, or the repair that needs to be done on your home or your car. These are little hassles that really add up over time. And sometimes you get into a new hassle situation like traffic, and suddenly you're blowing your stack about that, and it's because all these hassles have really stacked up. Now, uplifts are the things that really help us be happy, and they help offset some of these hassles that we deal with on a daily basis. So things like someone buying your coffee for you when you go through the coffee drive-through or you're standing in line. When someone does that, that's an uplift for you, and it's really helpful to deal with stress. Also, another uplift can be finding that perfect parking spot right where you need it to be so that you can get in and out of the store very quickly. Those are the things that are very helpful for our stress. Now, we deal with conflict often, and conflict is a major source of stress for many of us. And there was research that was done on the types of conflicts and choices that we have to make. There's the approach-approach conflict when we're trying to make a decision. There's the approach-avoidance conflict when we need to make a decision. And there's the avoidance-avoidance conflict. So the approach-approach conflict is when we have two choices and they're both equally desirable. We really want, let's say, both jobs. There's two job offers that come in and they both have really good salaries and they both have really good benefits, and we feel like we would really get along with the coworkers that we would be working with, and it's hard to make that decision. Often what we tell people to do when they're trying to make this kind of decision is flip a coin, or go with what your gut tells you. That might be something that you would do for an approach-approach conflict. Now, with approach-avoidance conflicts, this is where there are really good things about the choice that you need to make, and there's really bad things about the choice that you need to make. And there's those two job offers again. And maybe there's really good benefits, but not so great coworkers at one. And maybe the other job, there's really good coworkers, but not so great benefits. In this case, what you might need to do is make a pros and cons list and decide what are the most important things to you so that you can make a choice for these possible two job offers or whatever it is you're trying to choose from. The next conflict that we deal with is the avoidant conflict. And this is where we have two undesirable job offers or two undesirable choices that come in. We really don't want either one, but we have to make a choice between the two, like a job offer. I have to work, so I have to choose one of these that's undesirable. Often what we see with the avoidance is people really delay trying to make this choice at all. And again, this might be something where you need to make a pros and cons list, or flip a coin can also be helpful for this. Now, our body does respond to the stress in our life. We have that fight or flight response that happens when we are under stress. That is the physiological response that prepares us for an emergency by efficiently managing the body's resources. Now, cortisol is a hormone that really plays an important role in our adaptation to stress. So when the sympathetic nervous system activates, this is when our heart accelerates. This is when our digestion actually slows down. This is when we start to secrete adrenaline so that we can actually fight or flee from the danger. What happens when we are under stress or prolonged stress is cortisol can be very helpful in the beginning to help us adapt to that stress. So cortisol is released over time, and it can really negatively impact our brain and other organs and our physiological system. This is where we have people who have issues long term, and things like gastric ulcers, cancer, and cardiovascular disease are exacerbated by stress and some of the hormones that are released while we are under severe amounts of stress. So while cortisol and other hormones do not cause gastric ulcers, it's actually a bacteria that's in our system, it does impact our healing and it does impact the severity of the gastric ulcers. Same way with cancer. We can't link that stress causes cancer, but certainly healing and repairing the system after going through cancer treatments is impacted by stress in our system. Cardiovascular disease also has a strong relationship with stress as well. Again, we can't say that stress causes cardiovascular disease, but people who are under more amounts of stress and more prolonged stress do experience more cardiovascular disease. So there is this relationship between the two. Another stressor that we deal with is burnout. Burnout is specific to work. Burnout is not depression, although there may be some symptoms that overlap with depression, but it's really specific to the workplace. So the three factors that we see with burnout are emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced personal accomplishment. So when someone goes to work, they go in with this idea that, they're really going to enjoy this job, or they get some type of emotional satisfaction from the work that they are doing. And what we see with many individuals who experience burnout is that that emotional satisfaction really kind of diminishes, and they feel more emotionally depleted and exhausted rather than being regenerated by what it is that they do. Now with burnout, this lasts longer than just having a hard day or several hard days at work. Now, depersonalization is another factor with burnout. And depersonalization is where we really stop seeing people as people. We start seeing them maybe as case numbers or number 152 instead of actually dealing with the person and their issues that they need help with. We also experience reduced personal accomplishment with burnout. And this is where someone feels less accomplished in what they are trying to do in their work. Again, often when we take on these positions, we want to have that sense of satisfaction emotionally as well as feeling accomplished in our work. And that's burnout that we often experience. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope it has helped. Please click on the EdVantage logo to subscribe.